Now, for more on this, we are now being joined by Ben Aris, who is a political analyst. Ben, welcome to Firstpost.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. Ben, Iran said its strike on the US base was a direct response to American attacks on its nuclear sites, and that it targeted military areas away from civilians. Was this attack more symbolic than anything else?
It was absolutely symbolic. I mean, down to the fact that they sent specifically 14 missiles, which was the exact number of the deep penetration bombs that the US dropped on Iranian nuclear sites. The idea here was that Iran had to respond, that it'd been hit by America, and so it had to hit back at America. That meant targeting a US military base, one of the dozens of bases that they have in the Middle East. But it was done in such a way because Tehran remains, I don't know, terrified is probably the right word, of pulling the states into the conflict. I mean, Israel has a powerful military. Before they hold out against it, take a lot of damage, but it has its missiles that it can fire back. But if the Americans were to enter the war, then it's game over. There's no way Iran could fight against the American military power. And so they judged it finally. They've been humiliated by this attack on their own sovereign soil, that they need to respond and make a gesture, but it was done in a very calculated way. And I'm pretty sure that everyone in the White House understands that. And as Trump's administration is reluctant to go to war, they're probably going to let this go. I mean, the key detail here is that the Iranians went out of their way to warn America that they were about to bomb its base in Qatar. And so the base was evacuated. It was empty. So there was some superficial damage to some buildings. No one was killed. No one was injured. And the onslaught stopped immediately. So now we go back to the politics.
Also, Ben, Russia is Iran's staunchest ally. So was Iran's response to the United States strike muted because of lack of support from its key ally?
Well, both China and Russia normally are backing Iran in so much as that they're in their own clash with the West, and they see the White House in particular as a bully, and here it is bullying proxy in Israel. But they're both pretty helpless to help. I mean, Putin signed a strategic deal with Iran at the start of this year, but that doesn't extend to security guarantees, unlike with North Korea, where there is a security guarantee, NATO Article 5 type guarantee for North Korea, but not for Iran. And Putin did offer to help. He's repeatedly said that he could come and intermediate between the two sides, but that offer's been rebuffed by both sides. They're not going to send weapons. I think that would be to engender more problems with the states if the Russians got involved. And moreover, Putin's still nominally in ceasefire talks brokered by the US with Ukraine, and he wants concessions there. And so I don't think he's going to go out of his way to upset the Americans by coming out strongly on Iran. So his hands are kind of tied. And so it's boiled down. The Iranian foreign minister was in Moscow yesterday. Putin condemned the American strikes, but that was a given. But I don't think there's much Russia can do. I mean, as I say, it's offered to talk to the White House, and Putin has talked both to Khamenei and to Trump recently. In fact, he's talking to Trump quite often, but to no avail. I don't think he has any leverage over Trump when it comes to Iran, because the States is tied to Israel, and whatever Israel's doing, that the States will follow that lead.
Now, right after the Iranian attack, the President Trump announced the ceasefire and even thanked Iran for giving advance warning about the strike on Udeid. Will the ceasefire hold?
Well, let's step back for a second. I mean, there's a slightly weird situation here in so much as the three actors in this conflict, Israel, Iran, and the States. The Israelis are hell-bent on seeing through their campaign, and Netanyahu's been wanting to destroy these nuclear facilities for 20 years, and things have come together finally so that he's actually got his way. However, both Iran and the States are incredibly reluctant, if you watch closely, to actually go to war. I mean, the symbolic strike on the US base yesterday is indicative of that. The measured responses they've had in the various missile exchanges have always been designed to make the points to hit back. I mean, Iran has armed itself to be able to do that, but it's always been done in such a way as to try and avoid escalating. And the same on the Trump side, that Trump, I think he's very torn over this military campaign, and that he didn't want to do it. He was very reluctant, and he's caught between the hawks and the doves in the White House. But more specifically, he campaigned on a promise to end the forever wars. And here we are on the brink of having a brand new regional wide war. And so I think that he was persuaded by the Israelis and the hawks to bomb these nuclear sites to get rid of that threat of a bomb. But then now he's backpedaling really rapidly that a new Middle Eastern war is not where he wants to go. And so he's going to stop it. So same with Israel, as I mentioned before, not Israel, with Iran, as I mentioned before. They can't win a straight-on head-to-head clash. I think Trump sees this whole military thing as in business terms. It's like bringing a lawsuit in a disputed contract, and that lawsuits are expensive, inconvenient, and unpredictable. However, they do have definitive finite ends with a concrete conclusion. And I think Trump's idea of using the military is similar. The trouble is, the difference with military is that, you can end up in these protracted wars. The states fought for a decade in Iraq and for 2 decades in Afghanistan. So he's going to do everything he can now that he's brought his case and won it, in the sense that they've destroyed these nuclear facilities, but he's going to do everything he can to stop this as fast as he can. And I think on Tehran's side as well, they were quite happy to see an end to it. I mean, they've been suffering massive destruction, but things like their export oil capacity hasn't been touched. And so if it stopped tomorrow, they'd have to rebuild some apartment blocks, but the economy would sort of continue to function. So I think there's a good chance. It all comes down to whether Netanyahu considers the destruction of the nuclear facilities complete, if that was actually effective. And that question remains up in the air. There have been some reports that they weren't totally destroyed and that Iran, but I think there's a good chance that we'll actually see an end of the hostilities at this point. The ceasefire has a decent chance of holding.
And finally, Ben, even though Iran claimed that their recent attack was not aimed at Qatar, but even then, Qatar's ministry responded to the attacks, calling it a quote-unquote sovereign issue. What do you think of Qatar's role going forward?
Yeah, Qatar's been put in an awkward position because, I mean, all said and done, this isn't an embassy, it's a military base and it's on Qatari sovereign territory, and hence Iran technically has attacked Qatar. However, I think pragmatism will hold. Everybody realizes that Iran had to make a gesture and that hitting a base was the obvious one to do, and that it was done clinically, surgically, minimum damage, no damage to any Qatari assets, only to the American base, and that they have to make this noise, this is invasion or abuse of our sovereign territory. But I think or firing missiles back, because it wasn't per se an attack on Qatar, it was an attack on the states, and I think that's clear to everyone.
That was Ben Aris, who's a political analyst. Ben, thank you for speaking to First Post.
My pleasure.
First Post now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion kakarjo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
4 兆ドル以上も
Portuguese,
por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. First Post.